What would you do if your DNA started rewriting itself? On planet Z-37, archaeologist Sarah Mason's discovery of an ancient artifact triggers a transformation that could change humanity's understanding of the universe forever. As she gains incredible powers and visions of an extinct civilization, she must race against time to uncover their secrets while being hunted by her own people.
Who were these ancient beings?
What caused their extinction? And what does it mean for humanity's future? Subscribe now to unravel this cosmic mystery. The crimson sun of Z-37 cast long shadows across the excavation site as Sarah Mason carefully brushed away centuries of dust from the crystalline surface. Her gloved fingers traced the intricate patterns etched into the alien structure, each symbol pulsing faintly with an inner light that seemed to respond to her touch. The air carried an electric charge, making the hair on her arms stand up despite her environmental suit's climate control. This was the moment she had dedicated her life to, the discovery of an intact structure from the lost civilization that had vanished without a trace millennia ago. The expedition had cost billions, required years of preparation, and overcome countless challenges just to reach this point. Now, standing before this monumental find, Sarah felt both exhilaration and trepidation. Something about the structure felt alive. Its presence resonated through her very bones, creating a harmonic vibration that neither her instruments nor her scientific training could fully explain. The rest of the team worked methodically around her, their movements careful but mechanical compared to Sarah's almost reverent approach to the artifact. Little did they know that their routine archaeological mission was about to transform into something far more extraordinary. Sarah's breathing quickened as she examined the crystalline structure more closely. The patterns weren't just decorative, they formed complex mathematical sequences that defied conventional understanding. Her HUD displayed readings that fluctuated erratically, energy levels spiking and dropping, gravity waves rippling through the immediate area. "This isn't possible," she whispered, her voice carrying through the comms channel. "These patterns are self-correcting, like DNA strands, but on a quantum level." The structure seemed to grow warmer under her touch, its glow intensifying until it illuminated the entire chamber. Strange symbols began floating in the air around her, holographic projections that danced across her field of vision. Each one triggered a cascade of sensations, memories that couldn't possibly be hers, fragments of knowledge that burned through her consciousness like lightning strikes. The other researchers noticed the changes too late. "Dr. Mason, step back," called Dr. Chen from the observation platform, his voice tight with concern. But Sarah couldn't move. The artifact had latched onto her DNA like a living thing, threads of alien genetic material weaving themselves into her cellular structure. A searing pain shot through her body as her cells began to rewrite themselves at a fundamental level. The transformation began subtly, a slight shift in perception, colors becoming impossibly vivid, sounds resolving into layers of meaning she'd never noticed before. Sarah staggered back from the artifact, her reflection in its surface revealing subtle changes already taking hold. Her eyes glowed with an inner light, pupils contracting into vertical slits that adapted instantly to the changing light levels. The pain intensified, spreading through her nervous system like liquid fire, but beneath it lay something else, an awakening. Visions flooded her mind, unbidden and overwhelming, towering cities bathed in bioluminescent light, skies filled with massive organic spacecraft, creatures moving in perfect harmony with their environment. These weren't mere images, they were memories, experiences downloaded directly into her consciousness. She saw the civilization at its height, understood their language instinctively, felt their connection to the universe on a quantum level. But there were darker visions too, warnings, conflicts, a great catastrophe that wiped them out. Through it all ran a single thread of purpose, a message meant specifically for her. The other researchers watched in growing alarm as Sarah's transformation accelerated, her skin developing iridescent patterns that shifted with her emotions, her body becoming lighter, stronger, faster. Panic spread through the research camp like wildfire. Security teams mobilized, weapons drawn, as news of Sarah's transformation reached command. Containment protocols initiated, came the cold voice of Colonel Harris over the intercom. Subject Mason is to be isolated immediately. But Sarah was beyond their reach now, both physically and mentally. Her enhanced senses detected their approach long before they arrived, allowing her to slip away into the ruins. The alien DNA coursing through her veins granted her abilities that defied human limitation. She could manipulate molecular bonds, phase through solid matter, perceive multiple timelines simultaneously. Yet with each new power came deeper understanding of the civilization's demise. They hadn't simply disappeared, they had transcended physical form, leaving behind only echoes of their existence. The artifact wasn't just a relic, it was a key, a bridge between dimensions, and Sarah had become its living embodiment. As she moved through the ancient city, its structures responding to her presence, she realized the truth. The civilization had known she would come. They had prepared this path for her, encoding their entire history and final message within her transformed DNA. The underground chambers revealed themselves to Sarah's heightened perception like ghost images superimposed on reality. Passages that had seemed solid rock moments ago now pulsed with invitation, their surfaces rippling like liquid metal. She stepped through walls that parted before her, emerging into vast caverns filled with floating archives, crystalline matrices containing the collective knowledge of an entire species. Each step sent ripples through the air, triggering cascades of information that flowed directly into her consciousness. The civilization called themselves the Luminari, beings of pure thought who had mastered the art of consciousness transfer. Their society had evolved beyond physical limitations, existing as patterns of quantum information spread across multiple dimensions. But their transcendence had come at a terrible price. A catastrophic war with another dimension had forced them to sacrifice their physical forms entirely, scattering their essence across time and space. Sarah's DNA now contained fragments of their consciousness, allowing her to access their memories and abilities. She saw their greatest achievements, the creation of entire ecosystems, the harmonization of technology with nature, the development of consciousness-sharing networks that made individual minds obsolete. But she also witnessed their darkest hour, the invasion from beyond the dimensional veil, the desperate measures taken to preserve their legacy, and finally, their voluntary dissolution into pure energy. The military response came swiftly, guided by fear rather than understanding. Dr. Chen argued for caution, warning that Sarah's transformation might be reversible, but his pleas fell on deaf ears. "We can't risk contamination," Colonel Harris insisted, his face grim. "If this mutation spreads..." He didn't need to finish the sentence. The implications were clear. Meanwhile, Sarah delved deeper into the Luminari archives, discovering that their transcendence had been both salvation and curse. Their consciousness had fragmented across dimensions, unable to fully reintegrate. Some pieces had decayed, others mutated, creating dangerous anomalies in the fabric of reality. The artifact she had activated was one of many nodes in a vast network designed to stabilize these fragments. Her transformation wasn't random, it was part of the Luminari's final plan to repair what had broken. As she absorbed more of their knowledge, Sarah realized the true scope of their dilemma. The dimensional war hadn't ended with their transcendence, it had merely entered a new phase, one that threatened not just their existence, but the stability of all reality. The Luminari had foreseen this outcome, embedding failsafes throughout their network, including Sarah herself. Reality bent and twisted around Sarah as she accessed deeper levels of Luminari consciousness. Time became fluid, memories overlapping with present experience. She saw the colony's scientists working feverishly to contain her, their efforts futile against the forces she now commanded. The soldiers' weapons proved equally ineffective. Bullets passed through her phased form, energy blasts dissipated harmlessly against her quantum shield. Yet she held back, unwilling to harm those she had once called colleagues. Instead, she focused on deciphering the Luminari's final message, buried deep within her transformed DNA. It spoke of a convergence point, a moment when multiple timelines would intersect, threatening to tear apart the dimensional barriers. The Luminari had created their network to prevent this catastrophe, but their dissolution had left the system incomplete. Sarah's transformation was the missing piece, her human consciousness providing the anchor needed to stabilize the network. As she processed this revelation, she felt the first tremors of the approaching convergence, ripples in space-time that shook the very foundations of the planet. The colony descended into chaos as the dimensional tremors intensified. Equipment malfunctioned, gravity fluctuations sent buildings toppling, and strange phenomena began manifesting across the planet's surface. Most terrifying were the shadow beings, fragments of corrupted luminary consciousness that had degenerated into predatory entities. They hunted in packs, drawn to strong emotional signatures. Sarah watched helplessly as panic spread through the settlement, knowing she could protect them but fearing their reaction to her transformed state. Her appearance had changed dramatically. Her skin now shimmered with opalescent hues, her limbs elongated and graceful, her eyes blazing with starlight. When she tried to communicate with the colonists, they recoiled in terror, seeing only a monster where once stood a trusted scientist. Even Dr. Chen, her closest friend and confidant, backed away when she approached, his face pale with shock. "Sarah," he whispered, "what have you become?" She wanted to explain, to show them the wonders she had discovered, but words failed her. How could she convey the magnitude of what she now understood? The convergence point drew nearer, its effects growing more pronounced with each passing hour. Sarah found herself caught between two worlds, the human colony struggling to survive, and the luminary network demanding her full attention. The alien DNA within her had reached critical mass, transforming her body at an accelerated rate. Her cells now operated on multiple quantum states simultaneously, allowing her to exist in several places at once. She used this ability to protect the colonists from the worst effects of the dimensional instability, shielding them from shadow beings and stabilizing crumbling structures without revealing her presence. But maintaining this balance took its toll. Each use of her powers drained her energy, forcing her to retreat deeper into the ruins to recharge. There, among the ancient technology, she communed with the luminary consciousness fragments, learning how to harness their network properly. She discovered that the convergence point wasn't just a threat, it was an opportunity to complete the luminary's work, to heal the dimensional wounds that had plagued reality for eons. But doing so would require a sacrifice greater than she had imagined. As Sarah mastered the luminary network, she uncovered disturbing truths about human colonization efforts across the galaxy. The dimensional instability wasn't natural, it had been exacerbated by humanity's reckless expansion, their disregard for the delicate balance between dimensions. Every jump drive activation, every artificial wormhole had weakened the barriers between realities. The Luminari had seen this coming, which was why they had chosen her specifically. Her human DNA provided the perfect bridge between their ancient wisdom and humanity's technological prowess. But integrating the two would require more than technical knowledge. It demanded a fundamental shift in perspective, one that most humans might never accept. The colony leadership grew increasingly desperate, debating whether to evacuate or attempt to capture Sarah. They didn't understand that she was their only hope of survival. As the convergence point approached, Sarah faced an impossible choice: reveal herself fully to the colonists and risk being destroyed as a threat, or complete the Luminari's work alone and hope humanity would learn from their mistakes. The final pieces of the puzzle fell into place as Sarah accessed the deepest levels of the Luminari network. She learned that their transcendence had been a calculated risk, a desperate attempt to preserve consciousness in the face of certain annihilation. But in their haste, they had underestimated the corrosive effects of dimensional exposure. Fragments of their consciousness had become trapped between realities, slowly degenerating into the shadow beings now threatening the colony. These entities represented everything the Luminari had fought against: entropy given form, chaos incarnate. Sarah realized that her transformation wasn't just about preserving their legacy, it was about redemption. By merging human and Luminari consciousness, she could create a new template for existence, one that combined physical form with dimensional awareness. But the process would fundamentally alter her humanity. As she prepared for the final transformation, She reached out to Dr. Chen one last time, using her quantum communication abilities to share a fraction of her understanding. His mind nearly shattered under the weight of alien knowledge, but he grasped enough to realize the truth. Sarah wasn't a threat. She was salvation. The convergence point arrived with cataclysmic force, tearing open the dimensional barriers and flooding the planet with raw quantum energy. Sarah stood at the heart of the storm, her transformed body acting as a living conduit between realities. The colony's inhabitants watched in awe and terror as she ascended above the ruins, her form shifting and flowing like liquid starlight. Shadow beings converged on her position, drawn by the immense energy signature, but she dispersed them with a thought, absorbing their corrupted essence and purging it of entropy. The luminary network flared to life around her, ancient machinery humming with restored purpose. Each node pulsed in harmony with her heartbeat, creating a symphony of quantum resonance that stabilized the dimensional rifts. As she integrated the final fragments of luminary consciousness, Sarah experienced a moment of perfect clarity. She understood the nature of reality itself, the intricate dance of matter and energy across infinite dimensions. But with this understanding came isolation. She could never return to her human life, never again walk among those she had once called friends. From her elevated position above the ruins, Sarah orchestrated the healing of dimensional wounds across the planet. Quantum storms dissipated, gravity returned to normal, and the shadow beings dissolved into harmless energy. The colony survived, though many would never understand what had truly happened. Dr. Chen tried to explain, writing reports that would later be dismissed as wild speculation. Sarah watched them rebuild from afar, her presence invisible to all but the most sensitive instruments. The luminary network had transformed into something new, a hybrid system combining their ancient wisdom with human ingenuity. Through Sarah's intervention, humanity gained invaluable knowledge about safe dimensional travel and sustainable colonization practices. But this knowledge came with responsibility. The network required constant maintenance, and Sarah had become its guardian. She established protocols for future contact, ways to communicate without revealing her true nature. To the colonists, she became a legend, the Angel of Z-37, protector of the ruins and keeper of ancient secrets. Years passed, during which Sarah guided humanity's expansion across the stars, always operating from the shadows. She watched civilizations rise and fall, helped prevent disasters without taking credit, and maintained the delicate balance between dimensions. Her human memories faded gradually, replaced by the accumulated wisdom of countless lifetimes. Yet she never forgot her origin, keeping a small portion of her consciousness anchored in human experience. The colony on Z-37 thrived, its inhabitants developing new technologies based on the principles she had shared. They built magnificent structures that blended human and luminary design, creating a culture that honored both heritage and innovation. Regular pilgrimages to the ruins became a tradition, though few understood the true significance of their guardian. Sarah observed these developments with a mixture of pride and melancholy. She had saved countless lives, preserved ancient knowledge, and ensured humanity's continued evolution. But she remained apart, a bridge between worlds, yet belonging fully to neither. The universe stretched infinitely before her, filled with possibilities both wondrous and terrible. Sarah's transformed consciousness expanded to encompass multiple star systems, her awareness spanning centuries in both directions. She had become something greater than either human or luminary, a new form of existence that transcended traditional boundaries. Yet she never stopped learning, never ceased seeking understanding. The dimensional network required constant care, its nodes requiring periodic recalibration as reality evolved. New threats emerged, other ancient civilizations, forgotten experiments, natural phenomena that tested the limits of her knowledge. But Sarah faced each challenge with the wisdom of countless lifetimes, adapting and growing stronger with each passing era. She occasionally visited Earth, watching humanity's progress from orbit. The species that had once feared her transformation now reached for the stars with confidence born of hard-won knowledge. Though she could never return home, she took comfort in knowing her sacrifice had secured a brighter future for all sentient beings. As she gazed out at the endless expanse of space, Sarah smiled. Her journey was far from over, and the universe still held countless mysteries waiting to be discovered. If you enjoyed this cosmic tale of transformation and discovery, subscribe now for more thrilling science fiction adventures that will expand your imagination beyond the stars.